Sir, this is misbehaving. Actually, GNS is really misbehaving, sir.
Yeah,
अब आप
sometime.
देखोगे कि you can see on my screen, I am not getting the route for myself advertised route, 20 dot network, and I am receiving that route on
Which router
R1
you are using, brother?
7200.
No, I am also using that, but
हाँ सर, सर उस दिन भी आप देख
just
वी हैड अ
runs.
डिस्कशन राइट,
So
आई वो वाला स्टैटिक ये जीआरपी वाज नॉट अवेलेबल, या
हाँ हाँ,
टेल मी।
वो तो था, लेकिन ये वाला चल रहा था. And just run one command. Let me see. 10 subnet is not there in the topology table, right? So IP है GRP interfaces.
क्या देखना है सर आपको?
So IP है GRP interfaces.
शो आईपी जीआरपी इंटरफेसेस, this is my LAN port and these are two my WAN ports.
Yeah, so GRP is enabled everywhere.
Correct. And on R4 as well,
So IP
show
protocol.
IP EGRP interface. Similar, show IP protocol. सर इसकी वजह से आई एम नॉट एबल टू अप्लाई द ऑफसेट लिस्ट। अब मेरे पास में यहीं पे नहीं आ रहा है रूट
भी
सर।
एक बार राउटर को डिलीट करके फिर से दोबारा राउटर इंस्टॉल करिए, ऐड करिए.
शो
इमेज वही है
आईपी
जो मैंने
राउट
दिया था आपको,
शो
राउटर का
वर्जन,
इमेज.
ये रहा सर 50.2। हाँ आपके वाले से ही मैंने डाउनलोड किया था सर।
तो सही तो चलना चाहिए. वहाँ पे
मतलब
तो ये सारे इशू नहीं आती है.
previously it was working, grip में it was working fine, ये AJRP I don't know what is happening। सर इसमें 20 का आना चाहिए ना, राइट?
हाँ बिल्कुल.
नहीं, ओके, शो आईपी राउट, आई थिंक 20 का, ठीक ठीक है सर, गॉट इट। शो आईपी एक्सेस लिस्ट,
You can stop sharing your screen then. So IP access list or show access list. Okay, so we were talking about LSAs. Let's understand all the LSAs one by one. The first LSA is most important LSA of OSPF, LSA 1, which is, what is the name of LSA 1, guys? Type 1 LSA.
राउटर
Router LSA.
Router LSA, right? So router LSA is most important LSA. So let me tell you what it is with the practical. Through LSA 1 only, through router LSA only, OSPF router can view the entire topology. Through router LSA only, OSPF can view the entire topology. Types of LSA, not type of LSA, we can say router LSA or LSA 1. See guys, before talking about router LSA, always keep in mind there are two information, there will be two information in every LSA. These two information will be there in every LSA, either it is router LSA or network LSA, summary LSA, ESPR LSA, external LSA or NSSA LSA. In all the LSAs you will find these two information. What are those two information? First thing is advertising router ID. Advertising router ID, and it will be always what? Router ID of the router who is advertising that LSA. Advertising router ID will be the router ID of router who is advertising that LSA. For an example, I have two router, R1 and R2. router ID of R1 is 1.1.1, R1, I2. Here router ID is 1.1.1 and here router ID is 2.2.2. So whatever LSAs router 1 will generate, advertising router ID will be what? Always 1.1.1. Router ID 1.1.1 in the all LSA of router 1. In the same way, in the all LSA of router 2, either it is router LSA or any other LSA, advertising router ID will be 2.2.2, right? So for an example, router 1 have one number of LSA1, and router 2 have also one number of LSA1. LSA1 is 1 there, right? So in the database of router 1, how many LSAs will be there, guys? 2 number of LSAs will be there. LSA1 of 1.1.1 and LSA1 of 2.2.2.2. So this is what? This is advertising router ID, right? And it will be in all the LSAs. Second information, second thing is link ID. Link ID. Now, link ID, sometime link ID will be the router information, maybe the router ID of router who is advertising that LSA, but sometime it can be network information. Sometime router information, sometime network information like link state information. It can be a router ID of router, maybe DR router ID, DR router information, or ABR router information, ASBR router information, right? Or network information, the actual purpose of routing protocol to exchange the network information, right? So link ID is going to be what? Network ID. In the OSPF, we are going to share what? Link ID. In the link ID, you will find the network information. Sometime network information, sometime router information, right? So these two information will be there in each and every LSA. What I told you,
Sir,
advertising
link ID
router ID will be always the router ID of router who is advertising the LSA, right? And link ID can be the router information or it can be network information. In some LSA, it will be router information. In some LSA, it will be network information. Clear?
सर नेटवर्क इंफॉर्मेशन का क्या मतलब है?
नेटवर्क इन्फॉर्मेशन में जैसे EIGRP अपडेट मैसेज में नेटवर्क की इन्फॉर्मेशन जाती है ना, लिंक आईडी.
ओके.
लिंक आईडी जैसे मैं एक एग्जांपल, ये इसी एग्जांपल में आपको ये दिखाऊं कि यहाँ पे एक नेटवर्क है लूप बैक. आई हैव वन लूप बैक ऑन राउटर नंबर 1 10.1.1.0, right? So how router 1 is going to share this network information to router number 2? It is router 1 is going to generate router LSA, LSA1, router LSA, right? And what I told you, there will be two information in each LSA. One is advertising router ID, means router ID of router 2. Second one is link ID. Link ID will be the network information 10.1.1.0/24, right? And then router 1 will share this router LSA to router number 2. Router 2 will get to know about advertiser router, who is advertising and what network, 10.1.1.0/24. So router 2 is going to install it in their database, then in routing table. This is how router 2 will learn this network. Getting my point?
Good.
Means actual network information, right? Link state routing protocols here, what? Link information, right? So link information will be there. In which field? In link ID field. And advertising router ID will be always the router ID of router who is advertising the prefixes, right? So here we can say link ID, see here router ID, sometime router ID, and sometime prefixes. Prefixes. Clear? Rahul?
Yes, sir.
Right. So now let's talk about router LSA. Till now I have not talked about router LSA. This is behavior of each and every LSA. Each and every LSA is going to carry these two information. Okay, always keep in mind this point. I told you this point multiple times because it is very important to understand all the LSAs perfectly. Understanding all the LSAs in OSPF is bit challenging, right? Even you will not find good video on YouTube who can teach you all the LSAs with practical, but you can understand here, right? So see, router LSA. What is router LSA? First thing about router LSA is router LSA. First thing about router LSA that you need to keep in mind is every router in OSPF domain generates this LSA, right? But this LSA can not cross area. Means between two area LSA 1 can not be exchanged. Like between ES number EIGRPS number 10 and 20 we have to configure what? Redistribution. Prefixes will be not advertised by default until unless will not redistribute, right? So between the area we are going to use different LSA to share network information, not router LSA. Okay, I will tell you about this in detail when I will talk about next LSA. For now, just keep in mind that every router in OSPF domain generates router LSA, that is LSA 1, right? And you know that router LSA is going to carry at least two information: advertising router ID and link ID. And in the link ID, it will advertise network information prefixes, right? It cannot cross the area, or you can say LSA 1 cannot can be flooded within the area. LSA 1 can be flooded within the area. Now let me give you one example. See, I have two router, R1, R2. Simple example. R2, here IP address is same 12.1.1.1. Here IP address is 12.1.1.2. 2. Router ID here is 1.1.1. Router ID over here is 2.2.2.2. Or let's say I have created one loopback on router number 1 where I am running this IP address. On router number 2 there is one loopback where IP address is 2.2.2. Right? So both routers are going to generate their LSA 1, router LSA, right? Let me talk about LSA 1 of router 1. LSA 1 of R1. What will be the information inside router LSA of R1? First thing, advertising router ID. Yes guys? Yes or no? First thing,
Yes.
advertising
Yes.
Router ID of R1 and R2.
router ID. Who is advertising this LSA? 1.1.1 router 1. This is router LSA of R1. I am not talking about router LSA of R2. After that, link ID. Link ID. How many links are there? 2. Let's say link 1. Which network is running? 12.1.1.0/24. Link 2. Which network is running? 1.1.1/24, let's say, right? Apart from this, there will be cost information also. Let's say cost on this link is 10, means metric, and cost on this link is also, let's say 10, anything. So this is what? This is router LSA of router 1. In the same way, router 2 is also going to generate their LSA 1, a router LSA of R2. And what will be the information? Again advertising router ID 1.1.1, then link ID, link information, link ID. Again, how many links are there? 2. Link 1. Network
I think
12.1.1.0.
router ID will be 2.2.2, I think.
Sorry, 2.2.2. Yes, 2.2.2.2. Cost 10. Then link number 2. Second link 2.2.2.0/24. Cost, let's say 10. Same. Right? And after that, both routers are going to exchange what? These LSA. So router 1 will learn which network? 2.2.0, 2.2.2.0, and router 1 will learn which network? 1.1.1.0 or 1, anything.
Sir, here I have one question, sir.
Yes.
Sir,
1.1.
yeah, now, yes, now got it. What if we have a R3 router behind R2, then how R1 it will flood this LSA 1 of R1 to R3?
Let's design that lab here in GNS3, okay?
Okay.
Sir, I
R1.
have one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sir, we are saying that this cannot cross the area, right? It will be in the same area only, right?
Correct.
So sir, वो बैकबोन एरिया के पास भी नहीं जाएगा?
बैकबोन एरिया में अगर वो जनरेट हुआ है LSA1 तो सिर्फ बैकबोन में रहेगा, किसी दूसरे एरिया में नहीं जाएगा, या किसी दूसरे एरिया का प्रीफिक्स बैकबोन में नहीं आएगा.
ओके, दैट मींस कि जहां से जनरेट हुआ इट विल बी देयर ओनली, राइट?
एरिया क्रॉस नहीं करेगा, मतलब एरिया क्रॉस नहीं करेगा, चाहे वो कोई भी एरिया हो. ठीक. Here my subnet is going to be 12.1.1.0/24 and
आपने ये सीरियल लिंक कैसे लिया सर इसमें?
वो आता है ऑप्शन यहाँ पे सेलेक्ट करने के लिए, कौन सा लिंक आपको सेलेक्ट करना है. अगर
Okay,
आप में नहीं आता है और लेना चाहते हैं तो आप ऐड कर सकते हैं पहले इंटरफेसेस. मैं बता दूंगा अगर चाहिए होगा तो. ओके, दिस सबमिट router ID of router 1 is 1.1.1, router ID of router 2 is let's say 2.2.2, and router ID of router 3 is going to be 3.3.3. First of all, if interviewer is going to ask you that how many LSA1 will be there in the database of router 1, what will be your answer? How many LSA1 will be there in the database of router 1?
Only one LSA.
Guys, there are 3 routers. All routers are going to generate LSA1.
3 आएंगे.
3 आएंगे ना. LSA1 of router 1, LSA1 of router 2, LSA1 of router 3.
सेल्फ होगा और 2 और 3 का.
हाँ, लैन ही कनेक्ट कर दिया मैं लूप बैक बनाने से. अच्छा, और अच्छे से समझ में आएगा चीज़. Let's say here my subnet is 10.1.1.0/24. Here my subnet is 20.1.1.0/24. Here my subnet is 30.1.1.0/24. Clear? Topology is simple. ये स्विच भी हटाओ यहाँ से. Let's access these devices and let me configure it. Which routing protocol here I am going to enable? OSPF area, any area,
0.
let's say area 0. OSPF 1 area 0, any area, doesn't matter. R2 and R3. Why I have used serial link, that also you will understand, don't worry, right? If you are thinking why I have not used fast Ethernet link between routers, you can use fast Ethernet link also, but for this lab I have used serial link. The reasons soon you will understand when we will discuss network type in OSPF. Okay, by default OSPF network type on serial link is different and network type on fast Ethernet link is different. That means OSPF network type depends on link type,
Link.
that on which type of link you are going to enable OSPF, right? On that it depends. Network type depends. Interface fast Ethernet 0/0, no cert and IP address 10.1.1.1 255.255.255.0. Exit interface serial 3/0, no cert and IP address 12.1.1 255.255.255.0. Exit router OSPF 1, router ID 1.1.1 and network 12.1.1.0 wildcard mask 0.0.0.255 and area 0. Network 10.1.1.0 wildcard mask 0.0.0.255 area 0. Area ID here you can say 0 like this also or 0.0.0 also, right? Area ID is also represented in IPv4 format only. If I am saying 0, router is going to consider it as 0.0.0. If I am going to say area 255, router is going to consider it as 0.0.0.255. If I am going to say area ID 256, router is going to consider at 0.0.1.255. Getting my point?
So can you repeat this one, please?
What I am saying, area ID is also representation in, we represent area ID in IPv4 format. So if I am going to say area 0 or area 0.0.0.0, both are same. Even if I am going to say area 0, router is going to consider it as 0.0.0.0.
Sir, if we use 510, then will it be 0.0.255.255?
510.
10.
510. 0.0.255.255 is going to be how much? 255
510.
dot, here it will be what?
510.
So how does the
Not
router
255?
calculate this?
You can calculate like this. If area ID is going to be 256, so 256 means what? 1.255.
Yeah.
Okay, so then 2.255 then.
Yes.
510 means.
Yes. So area 0.
Got it, sir.
Clear, guys? Now see,
Yeah.
let me show you the database. So IP OSPF database. In database, you can see the router LSA of router 1. What is advertising ID?
Router ID.
Router ID of router 1. And what is link ID?
1. Router ID only.
Router ID of router 1.
1.
So in router LSA, so IP OSPF interface brief. OSPF is done on this particular interface. Okay, let me up this interface. Line protocol is down. Interface serial 3/3/0. No such. IP address 12.1.2 255.255.255.0. Exit interface serial 3/1. No cert. IP address 23.1.2 255.0. Then interface F 0/0. Again no cert and IP address 20.1.1 255.255.255.0. Exit the router OSPF 1, router ID 2.2.2.2 and network. Can I use 0.0.0 command? Yes, I can use 0.0.0 command also. 0.0.0 wildcard mask 255.255.255 means do not match single bits and area 0. So IP OSPF interface brief. You can see it have enabled the OSPF on all interfaces.
Hello, Richmond. I'm sending responses in our assessment view.
So
It
IP
has to
OSPF
do
database. Now in the database, you
with
can see there are two number of
using
LSA1.
Windows folder processes. Said yeah, and
Now two number of LSA1 and link ID and router advertising router ID both are what?
Same.
Nothing but the router ID of router who is advertising that LSA. That means link ID and router ID both are going to be same in LSA 1. What I told you, link ID, sometime link ID can be the network information, sometime it can be
Router ID.
router ID, right? And see in the LSA 1 of router 1, 1.1.1, how many links are there? How many links are there, guys? 3. But on router number 1, how
three.
many links are there? Only
2.
2. So on the serial link, router also consider their neighbor as link. Router 1 is considering their neighbor as link. Router 2, 2.2.2 as link. Now if I will open this router LSA in detail, let me show you the information inside router LSA. So IP, OSPF, database, then router LSA. Which router LSA you want to open? 1.1.1. This way we can open database in detail. This is nothing but the header only. LSA header. Router 1 and router 2 LSA1 header. If I will open it in detail, you can see advertising router ID, LSA is leave it, link state ID, advertising router ID, and number of links. Link number 1, link connected to a stub network. A stub network means directly connected network. What it's saying? A network is directly connected. Which network? 10.1.1.0/24. In the LSA1 of router 1, we are able to see there are 3 number of link. Link number 1 is a stub network, directly connected network, where 10.1.1.0/24 network is running. Subnet mask is 255.255.255.0 and cost on that particular link is 1.
1.
Link number 2. Link number 2. Link connected to another router means it is talking about their neighbor. Yes or no? This
Yes,
is not directly connected network. It is talking about neighbor connected to another router. What I told you on the serial link, router consider their neighbor as link. Right? This is network type point to point and neighbor router ID is 2.2.2. And the interface IP address where this neighbor found is 12.1.1. So you can see by checking the database like router LSA, R1 can reach to R2 easily. R1 know everything. Which links are directly connected? Who is my neighbor? And link number 3 is also a stub network, directly connected network. Which network is running there? 12. Subnet mask and cost on that particular link is 64. After that, router 1 can open LSA1 of router 2. So IP, OSPF, database, and the router LSA of 2.2.2. Then it can get to know about router 2 also. How many links are there? 3. Connected to another router means it is talking about me only. On router number 1, I have open router LSA of router 2. And in the router LSA of router 2, what information is there? Link connected to another router whose router ID is 1.1.1. It's talking about R1 only, right?
Correct.
And IP address on the interface is 12.2 and cost on the link is 64. Then another stub network, directly connected
सर IP
network.
एड्रेस तो 12.1 है सर नेबर पे तो.
नेबर का IP एड्रेस नहीं है ना, ये खुद के इंटरफेस का IP एड्रेस है जहां पे नेबर फाउंड हुआ है. What it's saying? Router interface IP.
Okay, not the neighbor interface.
Not. Okay. So router 1 know their own IP address as well. On my serial 3/0, what is IP? And by checking the router LSA of router 2, it can get to know about the IP address on router 2 also. What IP address is running on router number 2. Right? Then it is talking about connected network. 12 and 20. This is router LSA of router 2. Now when I will configure router 3, there will be 3 number of LSA. First let me configure it, and after that I will show you how I can design the same topology by just checking database. Config T, interface serial 3/0, no cert, and IP address 23.1.1.3, 255.255.255.0, exit interface F 0/0, no cert, IP address 30.1.1.1, 255.255.255.0, and exit router OSPF 1, router ID 3.3.3.3, and network 30.1.1.0, 0.0.255, and area 0. Then network 23.1.1.0, 0.0.255, area 0. Now show IP OSPF neighbor. So neighborship is there. Show IP OSPF database. How many LSA 3 are there, guys? LSA 1 is LSA 1 are there 3.
3.
On router number 1 also show IP OSPF database. How many LSA 1? 3. And on router number 2 also show IP OSPF database. How many LSA 1? 3. So database of all routers are identical. You can see similar, right? Only LSA age is different. You can see rest all things, sequence number, checksum, link, everything is exactly same.
सर ये 5 इसलिए दिखा रहा है because can you go back to
कौन
topology?
सा राउटर 2.2.2, 2 नेबर
हाँ.
और 3 लिंक,
ठीक.
right? Now I can open any LSA in detail. Now let's say this topology is not visible to me, right? I have only database of router 1. Can I design the topology? Yes. First of all, I will run this with which command? So IP OSPF database. So IP OSPF database. By checking my database, in the database, by checking router LSA, I can get to know how many routers are there in this area. In which area?
0.
In area 0. I can also get to know about my own router ID, about my process ID, which process ID is running, what is my router ID, right? In which area I am, and how many routers are there in this area, right? So till now router 1 knows there are 3 routers in area 0. How? Just by checking router LSA. If there are 10 number of router LSA in the database, that means 10 number of routers are there in this area, in the same area. Getting my point? Because first point is what? Every router generates LSA 1. LSA 1 cannot cross the area. So router 1 cannot receive any LSA 1 from different area. Whatever LSAs are there, they belongs to same area. Yes or no? So okay, I am the router 1 and my router ID is 1.1.1. I'm the router 1, my router ID is 1.1.1. After that, router 1 is going to open their own database first in detail by running command show IP OSPF database 1.1.1.1, right? Here is also information about the router ID, link state ID, both are same. After that, link, number of link. Network connected to a stub network. Okay, it is talking about directly connected, means one directly connected network is there. And which subnet is running there? 10.1.1.0, 10.1.1.0/24 network is running. Subnet mask information is also there, right? And what is the cost? 1. Cost over here is 1 on this particular link. OSPF cost, because this is fast Ethernet link, right? Reference bandwidth upon bandwidth of link. Later I will show you the reference bandwidth by default, which is 100, and how to change the reference bandwidth also. Okay. After that, link number 2 connected to another router. Okay, I am connected to another router whose router ID is 2.2.2. Neighboring router ID is 2.2.2. Okay, I am connected with one another router Here is one another router where router ID is 2.2.2 and I am connected like this. It is talking about R2. Cost on this link is 64. Cost over here is 64. Cost on this link. After that, link connected to stub network. Network is 12.1.1.0 and cost is 24. Right? It is talking about same link right here. Which network is running? 12.1.1.0/24.
4.
Right? And my IP address is 12.1. Right? Where this neighbor is connected 2.2.2. Right? On that interface IP address is 12.1. Means my IP address is nothing but 12.1. Right? By checking their on database, router can knows these all information. Yes or no? Is it clear to everyone?
Yes.
This is so important, trust me. Any question? Clear, right?
What
Does
about
router
the
one
neighbor?
have that?
Hmm?
Yeah, sure. Please continue.
Sir, what about the R2 interface IP? How come it
So
can
for that,
find out?
router 1 is going to check router LSA of router 2. In router LSA of
Okay.
router 1, you can see nothing more are there, nothing else in the entire LSA 1. By checking the LSA 1 of router 1 cannot get to know about the IP address of router 2. So what router 1 will do now? Router 1 is now going to check router LSA of router 2, because router 1 no, 3 routers are there. So IP OSPF database, 3 routers are there. Let me check the router LSA of 2.2.2. So IP OSPF. So IP OSPF database, router LSA of 2.2.2. Now it will check, okay, router ID is 2.2.2, fine. How many links are there? 5 number of links are there. Link connected to another router is talking about neighbor, right? And neighboring router ID is 3.3.3. This is not my router ID, it is talking about third router, right? So router 2 is connected to one another router where router ID is nothing but the 3.3.3. It is talking about R3, router 3.
So
Then
point to point over here means serial link, right?
network, yes, serial link. You can configure point to point network type on fast Ethernet, on Ethernet link also, but by default network type on Ethernet link is broadcast. Okay? Point to point means you know, like two devices are directly connected with each other. Correct?
Correct.
And cost on this link is, cost to reach 3.3.3 is 64, and IP address on my interface is, like IP address on router 2 interface is 23.2. okay, cost over here is 64 and IP address over here is 23.3.
2.
Sorry, 2. Then another link connected to a stub network, means it is talking about directly connected network. Which network is running? 23.1.1.1. definitely it is talking about same link, 23.1.1.0/24, because IP address on this interface is 23.2, you can see, right? And cost is again same information, repeated information. Then link connected to another router, again talking about the router, and neighboring router ID is 1.1.1. it is talking about router 1, and IP address is 12.2. here is the IP address, 12.2.
2.
right? Cost 64, already there. Link connected to a stub network, again directly connected, is talking about same link between router 1 and router 2. That information is already there. Then link connected to one again a stub network, means one more directly connected network is there, that is 20.1.1.0, means one LAN is connected to router number 2, where which subnet is running 20.1.1.0/24. and what is the cost over there? 1. on the fast Ethernet link, cost is 1.
So we can make out from this database the link type as well.
Sorry?
He, by cost, by seeing the cost, we can make out that which link is connected to where, right?
Which path is the best path? Router 1 know everything about their connected network. What is cost to reach 20 subnet from router number 1? Router 1 can calculate. Cost to reach router number 2 is 64. And cost from router 2 to this network is 1. Means total cost is going to be 65. If there is only any alternate path also to reach in 20 subnet, from that side also they can calculate the cost. They can decide which path is going to be best. Like entire topology view is here, na? Router 1 can view the complete topology. Router in OSPF, router will never generate any message like query message. When query message is needed, guys, when routers are dependent on neighbor, when routers are not able to see the backup path, alternate path, but in OSPF routers have complete view, so there is no any concept of query and reply. Okay.
मेरा क्वेश्चन था कि लेट्स सी कि एरिया वाइज हम लोग डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं ओएसपीएफ में, करेक्ट?
एरिया वाइज डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करते हैं। अभी हम जिस एरिया के बारे में डिस्कस नहीं किए हैं, तो बेटर होगा कि अभी एरिया को हम थोड़ी देर के लिए असाइड ही रखें, बाद में हम आएंगे एरिया पे।
ओके,
राइट, अभी एरिया कॉन्सेप्ट को भूल जाइए। यहाँ पे कोई एरिया का कॉन्सेप्ट हमने डिस्कस ही नहीं किया अभी तक, कुछ भी। एरिया हम डिटेल में समझेंगे, राइट। अभी आपके लिए सबसे ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट है राउटर 1 LSA समझना, लाइक राउटर LSA समझना, क्योंकि जो हम सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट से बोलते हैं OSPF इज एन लिंक स्टेट राउटिंग प्रोटोकॉल। लिंक, द मीनिंग ऑफ लिंक स्टेट इज complete view of topology. So how OSPF routers have complete view of topology? Through LSA 1 only, right? Means between the area, you are going to soon understand OSPF is also like EIGRP. Between area, they are also going to exchange routes, not the database, complete database. But within the area, you can see routers are exchanging LSA, router LSA, LSA 1. And in the LSA 1, there are detailed information of link. That is called link state advertisement. This is called link state advertisement, these LSAs. Inside the LSAs, link informations are there, how many links are there, and at each link, what network is running, what is the cost. Routers are not going to share total cost to reach any destination, right? Each and every routers are going to calculate by checking their database. So by checking router LSA of router 1 and router 2, router can design this topology. Still some informations are missing, right? Like what LAN network is connected to router number 3, what is the IP address on router number 3. So for that, router 1 is going to open what? LSA 1 of
Router 3.
Router 3, right? So IP OSPF database router LSA 3.3.3.3, right? So here you can see it is talking about same link where IP address is by about the neighbor router 2. IP address is 23.3, means IP address over here is 23.3, and link connected to a stub network, directly connected network 23 is talking about same link between router 2 and router 3. Then one more stub network is there, where network, which network is running 30.1.1.0, and cost over here is 1, right?
One fast Ethernet 1.
So see, we have same topology, guys, or different topology in GNS3. Same. Just by checking router LSA in the database of router 1, by checking database of router 1, and in the database what? By checking router LSA only, I can design the same topology. See. And this is how you will read the router LSA. Yes, Anjali?
नहीं सर, क्लियर हो गया वो ये
अरे
LSA
इतना
ही
जल्दी?
देखना पड़ेगा।
अभी पूछे, अभी खुद से क्लियर हो गया। ओके, और कोई दूसरा क्वेश्चन? Anything else?
So there is no information for interface.
Which interface?
Interface is interface of the router?
Network type is there in
as-
OSPF. We only need network type. What is the network type there? Network type should be same to become OSPF neighbor. Yes.
yes.
Link
So
doesn't
I
matter.
think command is also there. So IP OSPF interface we can find out from there as well.
For all the routers.
Multiple verification commands are there. Here also you can see network. DR concept is there on fast Ethernet link, but on the serial link there is no DR and BDR. So we will see these all, don't worry. In detail. Is router 1 clear, guys? So that I can move to next LSA, that is LSA 2, network LSA. In the same way, we need to understand network LSA, and during understanding network LSA, we have to understand what is DR, what is BDR, how DR and BDR election will happen, right? What is the concept of DR, everything. Any other question in router LSA? Just give me 1 minute. Clear? What is router LSA? Can you tell me at least 2 to 3 points about router LSA? If someone will ask you what is router LSA,
Link information of the neighboring
Router
router.
LSA, like type 1 LSA1, and it contains the directed connected links information of the router.
yeah, you can say it is type 1 LSA which contain the link, detailed information of link, and every router generate router LSA in the OSPF domain, and LSA1 cannot cross the area. By checking router LSA, router can view the entire topology within the area. Right, you can remove this point also, like within the area, because when we will discuss area concept at that particular time, we will discuss more about this point.
Yes.
Okay, now let's understand one problem in the OSPF. You know, OSPF is going to exchange LSAs, right? There are detailed information, right? So definitely OSPF protocol is going to be slower than EIGRP, because complete database is going to be exchanged here, right? The size of database will be definitely larger than the topology table of EIGRP, yes or no? So OSPF is even going to consume more memory than EIGRP, right? Leave these points, I am not going to discuss this point. Even we are using OSPF, there are many more benefit as well of using OSPF, everything you will understand. Now I want to make you understand the another problem here. Let's say I have one switch. Okay, first of all, let me ask you one question, guys. I have 4 building, and at each building I have one router connecting like this: R1, R2, R3 and R4. So tell me, connecting these routers like this, which design is best? I want to ask you, just to check your knowledge. If you are working in the industry, you can easily answer. I am going to create 2 scenario. In scenario number 1, I am going to connect each router directly with each other. Like router 1 is connected to router 2 and router 3. Router 2 is connected with router 1 and router 4. R1. 4 buildings are there. At each buildings I have one router. You can say I have 4 routers, right? Maybe 4 sites are there. At each sites I have one router, and all the sites are directly connected with each other. Means I have formed the ring topology. This is generally ring topology. And in the another way, I have similar scenario, but here I have used one switch, and then I have connect all the routers through this switch. Tell me, according to you, which scenario is more scalable?
Connected, switch connected.
Multi-access.
Yes, sir.
First
The second
one.
one.
Two scenario, second number scenario.
Second number scenario.
First
Everyone is saying second number.
Yes.
I think first.
First one, someone is saying first one. So who will explain why second number is more scalable? Guys, on router generally you will. Mhm. First
Sir,
of all,
first scenario, it will generate a more LSAs between routers.
in first, no, don't worry, forget about the OSPF. I'm not talking about OSPF. In general, I am saying, like, then matter which routing protocol is running, which one is the more scalable. Let's say I am going to add one new sites here, new site, right? So I need one interface over here on this router. I need one interface on router number 3 also. If interface is not available, then I have to add extra module, means card, with fast Ethernet port.
It has multiple broadcast domain. Second scenario, one broadcast domain.
Multiple broadcast domain is also there. In second scenario, we have single broadcast domain. Yes. Lots of
But
subnets
in
are
the second
required here.
scenario, we have single point of failure.
How many subnets are required here? 4.
1, 2, 3, 4.
How many subnet is required there? Only one.
Only one.
On the router, generally you will get less number of ports. So adding new site here can be complex, right? Can be costly. This design is costly as compared to this one, because on the switches, minimum to minimum you will get 24 ports. You can easily add 24 routers. How many interfaces I am consuming on router number 1? Only one. How many interfaces I am consuming on router number 2? 2. To connect how many router? 2 router only. Router 2 and router 3 is connected. But here with one interface, how many other routers are connected? 3. And even I can connect more routers as well. So this is more scalable, right? So let's say I have used this design for my company. And this is simple topology. You can assume there are some more routers as well. 10 number of routers are there. 10 number of routers are connected to switch. 10 number of branches or 10 number of building, right? Doesn't matter. Maybe in the large enterprises company, I have seen 10 routers at one branch, and all the routers are connected through this switch. And I am going to run OSPF here. Can you guys tell me any issue related to OSPF here? What issue will occur here when I will configure OSPF? 1.1.1.1, just try to think. 1.1.1, 2.2.2, 3.3.3, 4.4.4. First of all, tell me router 1 will have how many adjacency? How many adjacency?
3.
3. Router 2 will also have how many adjacency? 3. Each router will have 3 number of adjacency. Yes or no?
Yes.
Each router has 3.
Each routers have 3 number of adjacency. Means router 1 is going to generate their LSA1, and it will share to 3 neighbor, to router number 2 also, to router 3 also, to router 4 also. When router 2 will receive this LSA, router 2 is going to update their database. And after that, router 2 is also going to inform their neighbor to router number 2 and to router number 4. In this way, all the routers are going to flood their database, their LSAs, right? So there will be LSA flooding. First issue, flooding. Whenever any network will goes down on router number 1, what will happen? router 1 is going to update their LSA1. It will remove the link and it will update their neighbor, and their neighbors are also going to update their neighbor. So again LSA1
Neighbor.
flooding will be there. Again LSA1 flooding will be there. So just before few minutes what I told you, LSA1 is going to carry some space because there are detailed information of link. When I will add any link on router number 2, again router 2 is going to update their LSA1 and it will share with their neighbor, and their all neighbors are going to inform their neighbor. So every time we have what? LSA is flooding.
LSA flooding.
Same thing is happening. Let's say in the classroom there are 40 students. And if someone is coming in the class and he is asking, hey, what is the day today? And if everyone will speak, guys, at the same time, what will be happening there? There will be flooding, right? Duplicate information will be flooding, yes or no? If all 40 students are saying, hey, today is the Sunday, जो पूछा था वो भी कंफ्यूज हो भाग जाएगा, है ना? पूरा हल्ला ही हो जाएगा क्लास में, है कि नहीं है? Yes or no? So how we can reduce this flooding in the classroom? How we can reduce this flooding in the classroom? I don't want that if someone is asking something, everyone should speak. What I can do? I can elect one person as monitor.
Monitor.
Right? You are the monitor of class. If someone is going to ask something, you are going to reply.
Ask that.
If there is any information
Represented.
which we need to flood to everyone, principal is going to tell to monitor and monitor is going to inform everyone. Yes or no? That monitor is nothing but DR.
DR.
Right? So to reduce this flooding, what I am going to do, I am going to make one router as DR router, who is the monitor. Whenever any change will occur, all the routers are going to inform DR, and it is responsibility of DR to inform other router. Getting my point? So what will happen if I will make router 1 as DR router? Right? All the routers are going to form neighborship with DR only. Right? Between DR others, we will have neighborship without adjacency till 2-way. 2-way state. Remember 2-way state. Guys, till 2-way state, is there any LSA's exchange?
No,
No.
nothing.
So, will router 2 and router 3 are going to exchange any LSA? No.
No.
Here we have full adjacency, right? So router 2 is going to share their database to router number 1, and router 1 have 2 other adjacency. So it is going to send to router 3 and router 4. See how I have reduced the flooding. But what will happen if the monitor is absent in the class? If monitor is absent, we need one backup monitor, yes or no? In the same way here also we need one backup
BDR.
of DR, that is called BDR, backup of DR. Now question is, which router will become DR Praful? Which router will become DR? So router with highest
router ID.
Router with highest router ID or priority?
Priority first, I think.
Priority. But I have not configured priority anything like priority. So there is default priority is same on all the routers. Then it is going to check what? Highest
Router ID.
router ID. And you know router ID is unique. Right? So it cannot tie. So which router will become DR here in this scenario?
R4.
R4 will
R2.
become R4, no brother. R4 have highest router ID.
Yes, correct.
R4 highest.
R3 is going to become BDR. R4 is going to become BDR. Now if I am going to add another router here where router ID is 5.5.5, will DR replaced? Will DR replace, guys? Here?
No, sir.
No. Right?
No.
After the election, once DR is elected in this multi-access network, right? DR will not change until and unless DR will not goes down, right? If router 4 will goes down, then only another router can become DR. Again, BDR will become DR. Note the router with highest router ID. BDR will become DR router, and highest router ID means router number 5 will become what? BDR. Router number 5 will become BDR. Right? Now, okay. This is my DR router, right? Now guys, DR router is going to generate LSA2 to inform about connected router on this segment. Segment you can say, or you can say on this network, on this multi-access network, or in this broadcast network, right? So router 4 is going to generate LSA2. What will be the information inside the LSA2? Again, first information, advertising router ID. What will be advertising router ID? 4.4.4.
Sir, DR will generate. Sir, DR will generate.
Yes, DR will generate. Only DR
LSA2.
knows na how many routers are there.
Correct.
Right? Only DR router have full adjacency with all other routers. So DR is going to generate LSA2. In the LSA2, their first information is advertising router ID. Advertising router ID. Second information is link ID. Guys, here in the link ID, what will be the information about the connected router? 1.1.1, 2.2.2, 3.3.3, and 4.4.4, right? Attached router, you can say. Attached routers. How many routers are attached? This is LSA 2. Right? And what is the wait interval for DR election? 40 seconds. 40 seconds. So after enabling OSPF on the router, router is going to wait for 40 seconds. Within 40 seconds, if router will receive any hello message with higher priority or higher router ID, then router is going to declare theirself as DR other or BDR. It will get to know that I am not the DR router, right? But if router will not receive any hello message with higher priority or higher router ID within 40 seconds, then router is going to declare theirself as DR. Now I am the DR. एक बार जब DR बन गया तो फिर वो replace नहीं होगा.
So can you repeat regarding wait interval?
Here in the link ID, I think there will be information of IP address as well. IP address of DR router. IP address of DR. Yes, Anjali?
So can you repeat about wait interval? 40
Wait
seconds.
interval is 40 seconds. For DR and BDR election,
वो
routers
क्या?
will wait for 40 seconds.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So, if I will...
So can you go back to the previous screen? एक बार, I just wanted to note down something. वो LSA2 का कंटेंट क्या क्या होगा?
LSA2 का कंटेंट ये एडवर्टाइजिंग राउटर आईडी, लिंक आईडी और अटैच्ड राउटर की इंफॉर्मेशन की कितने राउटर इस सेगमेंट पे कनेक्टेड हैं. दैट्स इट.
सर अगर हर नेटवर्क में DR BDR इलेक्ट होना जरूरी है?
हाँ, हर नेटवर्क में. ये डिपेंड करता है नेटवर्क टाइप पे. ब्रॉडकास्ट, अब ये चीज़ हम कब समझेंगे जब हम नेटवर्क टाइप डिस्कस करेंगे कि कहाँ पे DR BDR इलेक्शन होगा. अब इस टोपोलॉजी में देखो आप, सो IP OSPF डेटाबेस, सो IP OSPF डेटाबेस. क्या कोई LSA2 दिख रहा है आपको?
नो सर.
मतलब कोई DR है ही नहीं यहाँ पे. तो पॉइंट टू पॉइंट नेटवर्क टाइप पे DR BDR इलेक्शन नहीं होती है, राइट? ऑन द ब्रॉडकास्ट नेटवर्क टाइप DR and BDR election will happen. On the broadcast network type DR and BDR election will happen, and By default, network type on the Ethernet link is broadcast. By default, network type on serial link is point to point.
Sir, repeat this.
So there
point
was
to- on
there was
point to point.
F0/0.
F0/0, yes. So is there any
This
neighbor
also
here?
broadcast.
Is there any neighbor?
Yeah, no,
Right,
no
so it will
neighbor.
not perform any DR and BDR election over here. Right, this
Sir, but
interface is even DR, but it will not generate LSA2. You can see here. So IP OSPF database. Sorry, not database. So IP OSPF interface brief. You can see this interface is
BR.
DR, right? But router 1 have not generated any LSA2 because there is no any neighbor on this interface, right? So to whom
Understood.
router will send LSA2? Not required, right?
Got it.
But here if I will use guys serial fast Ethernet link, if I am going to delete this link and let me use fast Ethernet 0/0, fast Ethernet 1/1, 1/1. Now here we will
It
have
will have
DR and BDR.
DR, BDR.
Let me show you. Config T interface serial 3/0 no IP address and interface F0/0 IP address 12.1.255.255.2.0. Go to router 2 config T interface serial 3/0 no IP address and interface F1/0. Sorry, I think on router number 1 I have configured IP on wrong interface.
F0/0 पे कॉन्फ़िगर कर दिया आप।
आप भी तो बाद में बोल रहे हो ना है कि नहीं इंटरफेस F1/0 and IP address done IP address 12.1.2 and say no set so IP
Sir, आपकी स्क्रीन हैंग हो रही है.
नहीं
Your
नहीं
screen is
so IP OSPF interface brief state is waiting for DR and BDR. It is waiting. Router 1 is so IP OSPF neighbor so IP OSPF interface brief. State over here is down. Even router 1 is not receiving any hello message. State is if state is down means guys
इंटरफेस तो डाउन ही है।
Sir, shut down our interface.
shut down है ना. So if interface is down and OSPF is enabled, then also state is going to be down. Interface F1/0 say no shut down and now so IP OSPF interface brief. Okay, अब तो router 2 DR बन भी गया होगा. ये देखो बोलने लगा कि भाई मैं तो DR हूँ. अब राउटर को अप आने से कोई फायदा नहीं भले उसके पास प्रायोरिटी हाई क्यों ना हो. Now so IP OSPF neighbor we have neighborship and so IP OSPF database. In the database are you able to see LSA2? What is advertising router ID? 2.2.2.
2.2.
Who is DR means? Router 2. And in the link ID there is information about IP address of DR router, right? IP address of DR router. And if you will open LSA2 in detail, so IP OSPF database and then network LSA of, always keep in mind one thing, we will always open LSA in detail with the help of link ID, not with the help of advertising router ID, right? So I am going to say IP OSPF database network and 12.1.1.2, right? So you can see what informations are there guys, attached router information only. How many routers are attached on this network, on this segment? Clear? Or better to create same topology. This one. R1, R2, R3, R4, and one switch. मेरा आदत है पहले टोपोलॉजी थोड़ा सा अच्छे से फेयर बनाने का, उसके बाद ही कॉन्फ़िगरेशन पे आऊँगा। ठीक, तो यहाँ पे कितने राउटर हैं एक ही ब्रॉडकास्ट डोमेन में?
4.
4।
सर हमारे पास ऐसी कोई लिमिट तो नहीं है ना? वी डोंट हैव एनी लिमिट टू कीप, वी कैन कीप एज मेनी एज राउटर इन वन,
yes, there is no limit.
बट सर स्विच पे पोर्ट भी तो होने चाहिए फिर इतने।
हाँ, स्विच पे पोर्ट होने चाहिए। स्विच पे पोर्ट आपको इंडस्ट्री में ऐसा ऐसा स्विच दिखेगा जहाँ पे 5000 पोर्ट भी हो सकते हैं एक स्विच के ऊपर, मतलब मल्टीपल स्विचेज स्टैक में होगा। मतलब मल्टीपल फिजिकल स्विच को हम कंबाइन करके सिंगल लॉजिकल स्विच बना के रखे होंगे, राइट। तो पोर्ट की स्विच पे पोर्ट की कमी नहीं होती है। पोर्ट की कमी कहाँ पे होती है? राउटर पे,
Router.
फायरवॉल पे, इस सब पे, लोड बैलेंसर पे।
Sir, if you have a more number of subnets, there is more huge number of subnets, then one area it will not sufficient, right?
No, then you will later you will understand, brother, that what will happen if we have lots of router in same area. Then see, the LSA1 of each router will be flooded in that area, right? Means let's say 100 number of routers are there in one area. Means how many LSA1 is there in the database of each router? 100, right? And LSA1 is lengthy message, lengthy information, right? So that's why we come up with area concept, to reduce that size of database. So if you are going to divide it into multiple area, right? So LSA1 cannot cross the area, so LSA1 will be reduced. So then you will understand between the area which LSA will share the prefix information, right? So that is, guys, LSA 3. So soon now we are going to understand the area concept only. Before that, let me configure this scenario. Here which subnet I will use? Let's say 192.168.1.0/24. I will configure .1 on .1, .2 on .2, .3, .4, like that.
सर इट इज सेम लाइक हब एंड स्पोक टोपोलॉजी, डीआर बीडीआर का जब हो जाता था, राइट?
हब एंड स्पोक में, हब स्पोक नहीं, हब एंड स्पोक तो अलग है।
हाँ बट
रिलेशन
स्पोक
मुझे नहीं
स्पोक
दिख
से
रहा है।
नहीं, ओवर देयर ईच राउटर इज स्पीकिंग टू द हब ओनली, राइट, टू एक्सचेंज द राउट्स।
Okay, like
और
that
यहाँ
you
पे
can
ईच
say.
राउटर इज स्पीकिंग टू डीआर ओनली टू एक्सचेंज द
Yes,
राउट्स।
like this you can see. Config T, interface F0/0, no cert. Let me use the notepad for the configuration.
Sir, then
सर
LSA2
इस बार
will
वो
cross
वाला बना लीजिए।
between areas.
Hmm?
LSA2 message will cross between areas, right?
LSA2 doesn't matter on area, brother. LSA2 matters on
Mhm.
network, per network, per subnet.
Network. Okay, okay.
Interface F0/0, no cert, IP address 192.168.1.1, 255.255.255.0, exit router
सर
OSPF 1. Yes, yes.
सर इंटरफेस में ही वो कमांड डाल देते हैं सो दैट वी कैन लर्न द अदर थिंग। आईपी ओएसपीएफ 1 एरिया 0 इंटरफेस में
हाँ
डाल
तो
देते तो
ठीक है।
वो ज़्यादा इजी रहेगा।
So we can enable OSPF on interface basis as well. Here on the interface you can use command IP OSPF process ID and area 0, like
वो
this.
वाइल्ड कार्ड मास्क का फंडा नहीं रहेगा
Wildcard mask का फंडा है. Copy and let me paste these commands on router number 1. Done. Then router 2, on router 2 IP
सर
address
लूप
is
बैक तो बनाया नहीं.
क्या नहीं बनाया.
लूप बैक
लुक
टू
बैक
द
है
टू
ही नहीं
डॉट
ना,
टू.
वो राउटर आईडी है.
राउटर आईडी है वो.
ये राउटर आईडी मैंने लिखा है. Here router ID is going
अच्छा
to be
सर, हाँ ठीक है.
2.2.2.2. Copy and paste it on R3. Then R3 3.3.3.3 IP address is going to be 3 here. Copy and paste it on R3. Then router 4 4.4.4.4 and IP address is 4. Copy and paste it on off. Now first thing I'm going to verify that who is DR. So IP OSPF neighbor. तो इसका नेबरशिप देखो आप राउटर 4 की कहाँ तक है सारे राउटर के साथ.
2 वे.
Till 2 way. And 1.1.1 what it's saying DR.
अदर
2.2.2 DR.
अदर
3.3.3 DR other. So IP OSPF interface brief. अब देखो ये राउटर क्या बन गया. राउटर 4 DR. नेबरशिप क्या होगी सबके साथ. फुल हो गई. नेबरशिप इज full adjacency. Who is BDR? 3.3.3. Who is DR? 4.4.4 router 4. Why? Because router 4 have highest router ID. Guys, if I want to make router 1 as DR, what I can
प्रायोरिटी.
do? Priority. I can configure priority here. What is default priority? So IP
1.
OSPF interface F0/0. Priority is 1 by default, right? Here also you can see the wait interval. Wait interval is 40 seconds, and here is the information of DR. I am on router number 1. On router number 1 also I can see who is DR. 4.4.4. And what is the IP address of DR?
1.4.
Sir,
How router
can you
1
show
have
the table? Can you show the table, neighbor table here from R1?
Yeah, just I am showing. First of all, tell me how router 1 got to know about the DR router, guys. About the router ID of DR router and IP address of DR router.
राउटर LSA.
Not router
नेटवर्क
LSA.
नेटवर्क LSA. sorry.
Network LSA, right? With the alpha of network LSA. Let me show you the neighbor table. So IP OSPF neighbor. See, router 1 have 2-way neighborship with 2.2.2 router number 2, because router 1 and router 2 both are DR other. So DR other are going to form, guys, neighborship till 2-way state. Means router 1 and router 2 are not going to exchange any LSA. Yes or no?
करेक्ट.
ठीक. फिर BDR और DR के साथ कैसा नेबरशिप है.
Sir, then R1 will. Okay.
Yeah, please.
Sir, then R1 will send the LSS to DR and BDR.
Yes, DR and BDR. If you don't want to participate any router in DR and BDR election, what you can do, you can configure priority 0. If priority is 0 on the router, then router will not participate in DR and BDR election. Let's say I want router 1 should never become DR router. Even it should not participate in DR and BDR election. I can configure priority 0 here. On this interface, IP OSPF priority. I can say what? 0. So IP OSPF interface F0/0. Priority over here is 0. Now this router will be always DR other. Like router 3 is BDR. Router 3 is BDR. Even you can check. So IP OSPF interface F0/0. Here you can see the state. The state is
सर ये रनिंग में नहीं दिखाता है.
नेटवर्क टाइप ब्रॉडकास्ट है, इसलिए डीआर एंड बीडीआर का फंडा है, ये बात मत भूलिएगा बस. स्टेट इज BDR,
BDR.
right? But I don't want to participate this router in DR and BDR election. Config T interface F0/0 IP OSPF priority 0. Again let me use the same command. Now state is
DR other.
DR other. अब कौन BDR होगा अभी बताओ? Which router is BDR now guys?
R2.
So IP
R2.
OSPF neighbor 2.2.2. On 2.2.2 also I am going to configure priority 0. Interface F0/0 IP OSPF priority 0. Now so IP OSPF neighbor. Now you can see there is no BDR, right?
Yes.
So all the routers have only full adjacency with DR router, correct? Between router 1 and router 2 we have two-way neighborship. Between router 1 and router 3 we have two-way neighborship. And with router number 4 all the routers have full adjacency. And now if you will check database, yes, wait. So IP OSPF database. So you can see the router LSA of all the routers. 4 routers are there. So 4 number of router LSAs are there. Right? And how many LSA2 are there? Only one. One LSA2 is there. Right? Who is generating? 4.4.4. And what is the IP address of DR? 1.4. Yes. Yes, Anjali, go ahead.
Yes, clear. That router LSA I was having.
So this is why we are doing it is because of to avoid LSA flooding, right?
To avoid the LSA flooding, yes. To reduce the
So
LSA
they will be
flooding.
only sending router LSA to DR only, right?
Yes. Now these all routers are going to share their LSAs to DR, and DR is going to forward to other routers like router 1. Router 1 is going to share their LSA1 to DR router. It will generate LSA1. It will share LSA1 to DR router. DR will send to router 2 and router 3. If there is no DR and BDR, then router 1 is going to share their LSA1 to all the routers, to router 2 also, to router 3 also, to router 4 also. And then router 2 is going to also share to everyone. Router 4 is also going to share everyone. Router 3 is also going to share everyone. So whenever you are going to add a network, whenever network will come up or goes down, LSA flooding will be there.
Network LSA is only shared in DR BDR election.
Network LSA generated by the DR router only.
Okay.
Right, to share connected attached router information. Here you can open this LSA in detail. So IP OSPF database and network 192.168.1.4. We will always open database in detail with link ID. See what informations are there. Attached router 4.4.4, 2.2.2, 3.3.3 and 1.1.1. That's it.
So between DR and DR other, the messages are unicast or multicast?
Multicast only. What I told you,
Wow,
brother,
what-
when message will be unicast in case of a static neighborship only. All the messages are multicast.
The same multicast IP address?
Not same multicast address. See one more thing here on router number 1. So IP interface F0/0. Guys,
There is
router
two
1 is
multicast.
DR other and joined which multicast group?
0.5.
Means router 1 can receive messages on this address only.
Correct.
Right, cannot receive on .6. Now let me take you to DR router. So IP OSPF, sorry, not OSPF. So IP interface F0/0. This router have joined how many multicast group?
2.
2, right? Dot 5 and dot 6 means DR router can receive messages on both address, right? So always keep in mind DR router is going to send LSA on dot 5 because on dot 5 all the DR other routers are listening, right?
Correct.
And all DR other routers are going to send LSA to
Dot
DR
6.
router on dot 6,
6.
right? So only
6 and
DR
5
router
both.
can listen this message on dot 6.
Clear.
Sir, once again repeat, please.
What I am saying, when router 1 will generate their LSA 1, what will be the destination IP address when it will forward to DR router? 224.0.0.6. It will forward to switch. Switch will consider multicast as broadcast. It will forward to router 3, router 2 and router 4. But is router 3 listening on this address?
No.
It will discard. Is router 2 listening on this address? It will discard. Is router 4 listening on this address? Yes, it will only accept. Right? So always keep in mind, we have two multicast address, dot 5, dot 6. DR router is listening on both address. Right? So DR other routers are going to send LSAs to DR router on dot 6 and DR router is going to send to other DR other router on dot 5. Right? Means router 1 will send their LSA 1 on dot 6 and DR router is going to send it to another router on dot 5.
Got it.
Question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, if we change the priority of DR right now and make R3 as a DR by changing the priority, so can we do it in the line network? पहली चीज तो
क्या कर सकते हैं बताइए फिर से क्या बोले
सर इफ अगर मुझे प्रायोरिटी चेंज करनी है आई वांट कि मेरा राउटर मिसबिहेव कर रहा है सपोज करो R4 ओके तो मैं चाह रहा हूँ कि ऑल द राउटर्स कम्युनिकेट टू दिस R3 ओनली व्हिच इज वर्किंग फाइन
Okay, yes, you can.
by changing the priority.
You can, yes, by changing the priority. By default, in real time, we will have already a strong decision on this, that which router is going to become DR. Right? We will,
And how we decide that?
like high configuration router is going to become DR.
Okay.
Right? The router who
Make-
is behaving better will be configured as DR router. Now tell me one thing, if I will configure priority 0 on router number 4 now, then what will happen?
So router ID election would be R4 only then.
Then there is no DR. And if there is no DR on broadcast network type, guys, there is problem. Routers are not going to exchange the database.
Sir, but उस case में why will the election will not go to the router ID then, highest router ID?
See, what I told you, I have to configure priority, like configuring priority 0 on router means what? Disabling the DR and BDR capability. Like I am
Correct.
telling to router, do not participate in DR and BDR election. Means this
Okay,
router will never become DR and BDR.
So सब DR other form में रहेंगे मतलब sorry two
DR
way
जरूरी है.
adjacency two way में रहे सर two way में रहेगी adjacency then सबके साथ आपस में
हाँ,
can we do
हाँ 2A में. अब R1 है, R2 है. अब किसी ने सोचा कि भाई यहाँ पे तो DR BDR की जरूरत ही नहीं है क्योंकि यहाँ पे तो LSA फ्लडिंग होगी नहीं, है कि नहीं?
करेक्ट
यहाँ पे तो LSA फ्लडिंग होगी नहीं, यहाँ पे तो डायरेक्ट कनेक्ट 2 ही राउटर है. तो किसी ने सोचा अरे यार DR मुझे LSA 2 को फिल्टर करना है, मैं क्या करता हूँ यहाँ पे प्रायोरिटी 0 कर देता हूँ, यहाँ पे प्रायोरिटी 0 कर देता हूँ. नहीं भैया वो नहीं चलेगा, फिर तो कम्युनिकेशन ही नहीं होगी, दोनों के बीच में डेटाबेस ही एक्सचेंज नहीं होगा. इफ नेटवर्क टाइप इज ब्रॉडकास्ट then DR must be there. So if I am going to configure priority 0 on router number 4, see what issue will happen. Router 4 interface F0/0 IP OSPF priority 0. अब सारे राउटर क्या है? DR other. So IP OSPF neighbor. So IP OSPF neighbor low. होगी कहानी गड़बड़. सो IP OSPF डेटाबेस. रुक जा थोड़ी देर में ये डेटाबेस क्या हो जाएगा,
40 seconds वेट करता.
क्लियर हो जाएगा. क्लियर IP OSPF प्रोसेस. यस 1 सेकेंड से. सो IP OSPF डेटाबेस. सिर्फ router LSA of router 4. I have only router LSA of router 4 in the database. So IP OSPF neighbor, right? Router 1. So IP OSPF neighbor. नेबरशिप कहाँ तक है, सिर्फ 2 वे तक. किसी भी राउटर के बीच में डेटाबेस एक्सचेंज ही नहीं होगा, राइट. सो IP OSPF डेटाबेस. ये डेटाबेस अभी क्लियर हो जाएगा थोड़ी टाइम में.
Sir, what about BDR? Once the DR is down, so BDR should take over.
Yes,
But
then
we
BDR
have
will become
disabled the
DR.
priority, right?
If DR will goes down, BDR will become DR. LSA 3 स्टार्ट करूं आज?
No, sir.
No, sir, please. No.
ये बहुत ज्यादा है.
तो अब थोड़ा सा टाइम निकालिए आप लोग, इसको जितना अभी कवर किए हैं इतना कवर करने के लिए.
So वही टाइम ही नहीं मिल पाता सर वर्किंग डे में तो बिल्कुल भी.
कब
हार्डली
है
1 घंटा.
सैटरडे, सैटरडे संडे.
Sir, I have only one small question.
यस यस गो अहेड.
In broadcast network type, if you have a DR and a BDR, only DR will send LSA to BDR. Just it will backup only. It will not send the LSA to
No,
to
BDR
other
will not
routers.
send. Yes, BDR will only maintain the database, right? BDR have
Maintain
all
the
the
database.
information, right, for the backup.
Mm.
If
For the
DR will
backup.
goes down,
Oh.
it can quickly take
Mm.
over.
So that's why all DR other routers updating message to both the DR and BDR.
Correct, correct.
Okay, sir.
So if I have two router, R1, R2, here I am using fast Ethernet link, right? So here DR and BDR is not required, right? But by default network type is broadcast here. So DR and BDR election will happen. One router will become DR, that will generate LSA2. So how to filter that?
Priority 0.
No, प्रायोरिटी 0 करोगे तो पता है ना प्रॉब्लम हो जाएगा.
Okay.
क्या करेंगे?
डिसेबल हो जाएगा.
नेटवर्क टाइप हम यहाँ
नेटवर्क
पे क्या
टाइप
कॉन्फ़िगर कर
पॉइंट
देंगे?
टू पॉइंट कर देंगे. पॉइंट टू
Point
पॉइंट.
to
Mm.
point.
Got
Point
it.
to point.
Got it. Got it.
That is, this is the correct way, right? So कभी कभी इंटरव्यू में ये बहुत क्वेश्चन आता है, भाई 2 राउटर है, फास्ट इथरनेट लिंक लगाया हूँ, राइट, यहाँ पे जो है सो DR बन रहा है, क्या करूँ? या बोल देगा कि भाई नेबरशिप जो है सो 2 वे में स्टक है, क्या इशू हो सकती है, राइट? एक तो बड़ा पॉपुलर क्वेश्चन है OSPF का. आई हैव 2 राउटर R1 R2. इंटरव्यू विल आस्क यू द OSPF नेबरशिप इज स्टक इन X स्टार्ट स्टेट. व्हाट कैन बी द रीजन?
हेलो मैसेज वो इंटरवल्स मैच नहीं कर रहे होंगे.
तो हेलो मैसेज अगर मैच नहीं
नहीं,
करेगा तो
X
एक्स
स्टार्ट में
स्टार्ट में
X
क्यों जाएगा?
जाएगा ही नहीं. सर नेटवर्क इंफॉर्मेशन शेयर करता, डीवीडी शेयर करता है स्टार्ट में.
डीवीडी और क्या नेगोशिएट करता है?
सीक्वेंस
DBD
नंबर.
and
MTU.
सो आंसर ऑफ दिस क्वेश्चन इज
MTU
MTU mismatch.
MTU different
MTU
MTU
mismatch.
different MTU.
Yes, different MTU mismatch, right? So ये बहुत
Sir,
ज़्यादा
on the
popular
extract, there
question
is a
है.
master slave.
Master slave election
Master and
happen,
slave
yes.
also. Hmm.
Yes.
Sir, based on master
But MTU
slave,
must be same
how,
na here. In X start state requirement is MTU must be same. So that's why
Right.
just interview is checking this knowledge, that do you have knowledge about it or not?
understood, sir. Okay, sir. The master and slave election, the priority, how it will be happen?
Same like their priority then highest router ID.
Okay.
सर इसमें देख सकते हैं हम लोग ब्रॉडकास्ट नेटवर्क में हु इज मास्टर.
हाँ क्यों नहीं देख सकते हैं?
Sir, so sir, network type depends on the links, correct?
Correct.
Okay, if like sir, we have two routers, R1 and R2, and we have connected via serial cable, so it will be like
Network type
broadcast
will be
network.
point to point. No,
Point
on
to
the
point to
serial
point.
link by default point to point. Yes.
Okay, so sir, in Ethernet or fast Ethernet, why like by default in broadcast network between two routers?
That I don't know, but that is the default behavior.
क्वेश्चन
Like
क्वेश्चन
they
अगेन
have
सर.
designed the OSPF in such a way, in this way only, that on like Ethernet link network type will be broadcast, because Here on the Ethernet link we are using for multi-access, right? Like multiple devices are accessing this link.
Network. Yeah.
So here DR is required, right? In the Ethernet network DR is required. So that's why maybe network type is broadcast by default, but we can change it. Command is very simple, like go to interface 0/0 and here you can say IP OSPF. Like I'm configuring priority, I can say network type. Network, and see how many network types I have: broadcast, non-broadcast, point to multi-point, point to point. You will also learn where I will use point to multi-point, what is non-broadcast network type, what is broadcast. So we have separate this topic, right? Network type in OSPF. We'll see these all types of network. First of all, I have to cover area concept now with LSA 3. Okay, then we'll move further. During all the LSAs, I will clear all the concept of OSPF, like the network, area, DR, BDR, right, LSA, link information, everything. That's why I'm going one by one, right? So today I have discussed two LSAs only, LSA1 and LSA2. See, in 2 hours we covered only 2 number of LSAs. The reason we are learning it in detail. Okay. Tomorrow we'll
सर
see.
मेरा मेरा कंफ्यूजन है ये जो टाइप्स ऑफ एलएसए आप पढ़ा रहे हो और जो हमने टाइप्स ऑफ मैसेजेस पढ़े थे उन उनमें क्या डिफरेंस है? आई मीन ये एलएसए टाइप्स ऑफ एलएसए व्हेन डू दे कम इन पिक्चर
Types of LSA is
ड्यूरिंग
what? Like in the EIGRP topology table, what informations are there? Network informations are there in EIGRP topology table, right? In the OSPF database, what informations are there? LSAs are there.
ओके 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 गॉट
So
इट
link state routing protocols here, database, right? Maintain database and they exchange database. Database means LSAs, group of LSAs, multiple LSAs. In the database of
ओके
router, we can have LSA 1 to LSA 11.
फाइन
Right? So till now you knows about two LSAs, LSA 1 and LSA 2. Which router will generate? What is the purpose of that LSA? Right? And DR and BDR concept.
Sir, I have one small question, final question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now
No.
we are clear, clear with the DR and the BDR and DR other. Just I would like to know what is the main purpose of this master and slave election?
Who will initiate exchanging the database? Right? Like see here, I have 4 routers, right?
Okay.
So to avoid the congestion on the link, I don't want that every router should send their database at the same time on this broadcast network. So that's why master and slave election will happen. Master router will start initiating exchanging the database.
Connection. Sending the database. Okay, sir.
Yes.
Got it, sir.
सर जब दो राउटर का स्टेट टू वे में है लाइक तो उनके बीच में एलएसए कुछ भी एक्सचेंज नहीं होगा राइट?
नहीं,
कोई भी हमें डेटाबेस में कुछ नहीं दिखना चाहिए फिर?
नहीं, उसके लिए पूरा आप स्टेट याद करिए कि कहाँ पे सबसे पहले तो डीबीडी ही एक्सचेंज हुआ था, किस में जाके एक्स स्टार्ट में डीबीडी एम्प्टी डीबीडी। टू वे तो बहुत पीछे रह गया ना।
हाँ,
टू वे तक तो हेलो मैसेज बस एक्सचेंज हुआ है।
यस,
हेलो मैसेज विद देयर ऑन राउटर आईडी, दैट इज द टू वे। तो टू वे तक कोई डेटाबेस एक्सचेंज नहीं होता है। टू वे मीन्स नेवर विदाउट एडजेसेंसी, जिसके साथ कोई डेटाबेस एक्सचेंज नहीं हुआ है। व्हाट इज द पर्पस ऑफ डीआर? टू रिड्यूस LSA 1 flooding in broadcast network type. Right? Which router will become DR? Router with highest priority. If priority is high, router with
Highest router ID.
Right? Now, interviewer can ask you which router will generate LSA 2, right? Which router will generate LSA 1? What is the purpose of LSA 1, LSA 2? Why DR? Where DR? Right? These types of questions they can ask.
Understood, sir.
But can you get back to the configuration, please? Just once.
Which configuration?
The one which you did on the routers.
Here?
Yes. 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 So we made the priority 0 so
Correct.
that R4 will not take part in the elections. But we do have BDR in our topology.
No, on all
So
the
can
routers I have configured priority 0, brother. So
okay,
how
okay,
a
okay.
router can
I
become DR?
understand.
On router 1 I am going to configure now priority 1. 0/0 IP OSPF priority, let's say 10. Right? So definitely now router 1 will become what? DR. So IP OSPF interface F0/0, or you can use command show IP OSPF interface brief also. You can see this interface is, router will not become DR, interface of router will become DR. Guys, if I have topology like this, R1, R2, R3, so how many DR will be there in this topology?
Two.
2 DR, right? One on this network, one on this segment. On both segment will have one DR. Right? So interface, maybe this interface or this interface, this interface or this interface will become DR. So now you can see router 1 is my DR, so router 1 will have full neighborship, so IP OSPF neighbor. Here you can see full adjacency with all the DR other router.
Thank you so much.
Sir, you said LS7 is restricted to single area, right?
I said yes, LSA 1 can flood it within the area, yes.
Okay, and if we want to pass the information to another area, redistribution is required.
No, no, not redistribution is required. Automatically router is going to generate, like one router will become border router then, and border router will generate LSA 3 to share inter area prefixes.
Okay.
Like,
Suppose in EIGRP we have two different AS,
okay,
like if AS10 and if, AS20.
okay.
Can we pass the information between through redistribution?
Yes, through redistribution we can pass the information.
Okay.
Again, between OSPF 2 process, let's say here I have OSPF process 1, here I have OSPF process 2, then redistribution is required. But between the area, if this is area 1, area 0, let's say, because two regular area cannot communicate, like you will learn between two regular area LSA 3 will not be generated. Right? Area 0 is actually backbone area. So it, let's say this is my area 0 and this is area 1. So this router will become border router, then ABR router, and this router will generate LSA 3, right? If 10 number of prefixes are there in area 1, then it will generate 10 number of LSA 3 for area 0. If 5 number of prefixes are there in area 0, then it will generate 5 number of LSA for area 1 to share all the prefixes, right? So ABR router is responsible for inter area communication. We'll see in next class.
Sure, sir.
Any other question? Okay guys, then that's all for